Alright, so boom, you're sitting in your local chicken spot. You didn't feel like cooking, man. It's a rainy Tuesday evening, late night vibes. You're just waiting on your 8 wings and fries, man. You're scrolling through Instagram. You pause on a video of somebody's auntie shaking them cakes. Sheesh. Hey, you built this algorithm brick by brick, baby. The door opens. Ding! This dude walks in wearing a bright neon green vintage puffer jacket. Like ridiculously bright. You can't miss the bread. He is pulling off the look though, I ain't gonna hold you. He walks up to the counter, digs into his pocket to find some change or whatever, and he accidentally drops a shiny 2-pound coin on the floor. Clink, 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 clink. It rolls past your trainer and hits the leg of your table. He looks down at the coin, looks up at you, and gives you one of those quick, awkward nods like, yeah, my bad. Then he bends down, picks up the coin, pays the boss man, and stands on the left side of the counter waiting for his food. You look down at your phone, the video's done a loop, auntie's still shaking it, you know what I'm saying? You scroll up, some comedians doing up a sketch. It's exactly 9:42 p.m. Your order gets called out. It's like, hey brother, wings and chips ready. You stand up, walk over to the counter and grab your bag from boss man. You turn around to dip, and then suddenly you feel a little lightheaded. You're like, whoa. The shop door opens again. Ding! And you look up, and bro, walking through the door is the exact same dude. For real. Same dude, same face, same build, same everything, bro. Wearing that exact same ridiculously bright neon green vintage puffer jacket. Your heart's like, boom, 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 boom. You slowly turn your head to the left, and the first dude is still standing right there by the counter waiting for his food. You're like, yo, what is going on, bro? Like, what in the glitch in the matrix is going on here? The second dude walks right past you to the counter. He reaches into his pocket to grab his change, and as he pulls his hand out, a single shiny 2-pound coin slips through his fingers. Clink, clink, clink. It rolls across the floor and hits the exact same leg or the table. The second dude looks down at the coin, looks up at you, and he gives you the exact same quick, awkward nod thing. You look at him, you look back at the first dude. It's the same bread, just like in two different, like what is going on, man? Like, you need to take a picture of this, man. You need to take a picture. Your hand is shaking as you grab your phone. You notice the time, 9:40 p.m., bro. The clock just jumped backwards 2 whole minutes. You blink, look back up the counter, and suddenly the room snaps back to normal. There's just one guy standing there, and he's looking at you all weird because, you're staring and whatnot. So, what's going on here, man? Are you tripping? Or did you just accidentally step through a tear in the fabric of reality itself? So when we think about time travel, we think about movies, literature. We think about Back to the Future, the DeLorean and that. Or for all my Marvel fans, you think about the Avengers rocking them matching white suits to go back in time. Which, by the way, Black Widow in that suit, bro, yo, out here looking like milk. Like thick milk. Like Greek style yogurt. So yeah, the thing with time travel is we've been fascinated by it way before the movies, TV shows, all of that. Our ancestors were looking up at the stars thinking about time, how it worked, and if we could move back and forth on the timeline. The ancient Braves were obsessed with this, and nobody, and I mean nobody, was doing it crazier than the ancient Hindus. Ages ago, right, in a sacred text, there's this story about this king named Raivata Kakudmi. Now, King Raivata, he was that guy. He had the gold, he had the armies, but he had one major problem, okay? He had one major problem. His daughter, Revati, she was too fine, okay? Like universally elite, okay? A certified 10 out of 10. Every single prince in the kingdom was outside his palace doing up toxic behavior, fighting in the streets, trying to get her number. Everybody was thirsting over her, man, moving crazy. So the king is bugging out, right? Because his daughter is objectively the most banging woman in the land. And she's got the brains to go with all that beauty, okay? She was super wise. So he looks at his daughter and he's like, nah, none of these local broke boys are worthy of my princess. I need to get some expert advice. So what does this man do? Does he call up a family meeting? Nah. Does he, link up with some wise, people? Nah. He uses his spiritual meditation powers to literally launch his soul into a completely different dimension to talk to Brahma, the creator god. My man literally skipped the queue of reality to talk to the manager of the universe, okay? How gangster is that? So, King Raivata rocks up to Brahma's heavenly palace, right? He walks in, but Brahma is busy. He's busy, you know what I'm saying? He's listening to some musicians playing a little divine concert. So, the king has to sit in the waiting room and that. And he's listening to the music too, catching a vibe. Finally, the music stops. Brahma looks over and, sees him. The king bows down and goes, yo, Lord Brahma, listen, big fan of your work. Yo, check it. My daughter, I don't want to brag or none, but she's like one of the most beautiful girls on earth. And yo, I'm looking for his son-in-law. I've shortlisted these 10 guys, you know what I'm saying? They're all right. Can you check them out and tell me who to pick? Like, who's the best one out of them? Brahma looks at the king. And then he starts cracking up, just straight up laughing in this man's face, right? And he goes, listen, man, you see that little musical set that just finished? That little 20-minute gig you were just vibing to? The king nods like, yeah, man, the music was dope. Brahma goes, yeah, while you were sitting there tapping your foot, time was moving at a completely different speed back home. My boy, it's been millions of years. All them princes on your short list, they gone. Their kingdoms, dust. Your palace, gone. Okay, it's probably a museum or something. Everyone you ever knew, loved or hated, gone. The whole world did a hard reset while you were sitting in my lobby vibing to the music. Bro, can you imagine? Imagine the existential dread. You leave the crib for 20 minutes to ask a question, and you come back and your house is a car park, and your friends have been gone for years. Like, what? But here's the craziest part about that story. Here's the craziest part. King Raivata didn't use a spaceship. He didn't use plutonium. He just went to a place where the gravity vibe were so heavy that time slowed down around him. That's the thing, man. When our ancestors thought about time travel, it wasn't like how we think about it. For us, it's like a time machine. Build a time machine. Because for us, we need something to travel in, to go through time. Because for us, time is this rigid thing, right? It's a clock that keeps ticking, keeps pushing us forward in a straight line. We are born, we grow older, we die. But for them, right, time wasn't a straight line. Nah, it was a giant repeating loop, okay? Just like that auntie shaking them cakes on your phone, okay? It always comes back round to the start. And yo, because they thought of it as a loop, because the idea of time was so fluid, it wasn't wild for them to think that there was a way to access different points in time. Yo, I just thought of something, okay? You know that Bray in the chicken shop? You know, the one in the green jacket. Maybe he didn't travel through time. Maybe you did. All right, boom. So you're back at the flat. You're still shaking up about what just happened. You drop your bag of wings on the kitchen counter. Your hand's still shaking, bro. Your girl, she's sitting on the sofa, scrolling on her phone, you know what I'm saying? She looks up, like, talking about the rain and that. But I'm guessing she sees the expression on your face, and she's like, babe, you all right? You start pacing around the kitchen, stuttering, trying to explain the neon jacket, the fact that it was, two of them, the coin drop, the whole Matrix glitch thingy. She's looking at you like you've completely lost the plot, you know what I'm saying? But she knows you, right? She can tell that you believe what you're saying. But hey, you know her, and you know she doesn't really believe what you're saying. Like, she's not buying it. And yo, it's ticking you off because it happened, right? It happened. You didn't imagine it. You're not making it up. This isn't some joke, some prank. So you're rambling, trying to convince her. You're so busy like trying to convince her, right, that you didn't even notice that the weird brer who rents your spare room is standing by the fridge. He goes, I was afraid something like this would happen. You and your girl turn and look at him. He's wearing mismatched socks, holding a half-eaten pot noodle. He looks at your sweaty face, looks at your girl, and he lets out this long, heavy, dramatic sigh. He goes, yeah, it's the 9:42 p.m. feedback loop. Look, I think it might have something to do with, you know what? It'll be way better and easier if I just show you guys. You and your girl look at each other like, what is this dude talking about? You follow him down the corridor. He pushes open the door to his room, and bro, his room doesn't look like a bedroom anymore. There's no bed, there's just massive hums of server racks, thick black cables snaking across the carpet, glowing blue LED tubes, and this massive metal pod in the center made out of old car parts. Oh, and a broken PlayStation 5. Your girl drops her phone, okay? You completely freeze. He points at the pod and says, I built a localized temporal displacement matrix. You're like, uh-huh? He rolls his eyes and goes, a time machine. Your girl looks at you like, yo, is this really happening? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? And you're like, okay, so you built a time machine. He goes, yes, and I accidentally left it running on a 2-minute delay while I was testing the system earlier. You're like, okay, just shut up. You build a time machine, like a real time machine. Your girl jumps in like, does it work? You're looking around at everything, right? And you're thinking out loud, like, is this even safe, bro? Like, the EDF bill this month is gonna be crazy. Like, how do you even He goes, yes, I'm still ironing out some of the kinks, but yes, it does. You're like, what do you mean? Your girl's like, really? It actually works? You look at her like, of course it doesn't. And even if it did, you don't want to mess with time. What happens if you go back, yeah, and you change something major? Like, what if you mess up history? The dude smiles, sets down his pot noodles, and goes, funny you should ask. Let's do a little live demonstration of the grandfather paradox, shall we? He does up like this live hologram screen thingy from the machine and is showing a grainy black and white feed from like back in the day, right? He points at the screen and goes, look closely. See that young man right there in the velvet suit outside the dance hall? That is your grandfather. You look at the screen completely in shock. Like, oh my God, that is him. Your girl's like, yo, he kind of looks like you, you know? The dude carries on chatting. He goes, now imagine I jump into this pod right now. I set the dial to 1965 and step out onto that pavement. I walk right up to your young grandfather, and because I hate his velvet suit or whatever, I straight out punch him in the throat. He falls backwards, cracks his head on the curb, blacks out permanently. He never recovers, which means he never meets your grandmother. They never have your dad. Your dad, he doesn't exist, so he never meets your mom. And you, he turns to you and points his finger, you never get born. You get a little peed off, like, bro, I swear if you did that, if you went back and laid a finger on Pop, your girl chimes in. She goes, hang on a minute. Wait. If he was never born, then he isn't standing in this room right now. He doesn't exist. We don't get together. We don't buy this flat, and we don't rent out the spare room. You jump in like, facts, exactly. If I don't exist, we don't rent out the room, there's no time machine, so you couldn't go back in time. The dude snaps his fingers and goes, exactly. It's a logic loop that completely freezes reality's operating system. Yo, see, that's the thing, right? Somewhere along the line, we started viewing time as this fixed, inevitable thing. But if we look at history, at different cultures, there was this belief that you could just stumble into a different time if you walked into the wrong part of the woods or, messed with the wrong supernatural entity. Take ancient Japan, for example. Around the 8th century, they had this dope story about a fisherman named Urashima Taro. Now, Taro was out here just, trying to secure his daily bag. He was catching fish and that, minding his business. Then one day, he saves a little turtle from being harassed by some local kids on the beach. Basic Good Samaritan vibes, right? Turns out that turtle wasn't just a regular reptile. Nah, it was actually the daughter of Ryujin, the emperor of the sea. And to say thank you, she transforms into a baddie, certified 10 out of 10 princess. And she invites Taro down to her father's underwater palace, the Ryugojo. And bro, when Taro gets down there, the palace is made of pure coral. The food is insane. The vibes are vibing. The princess is moving crazy, man. Just like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Just, throwing it back. Taro is having a blast, living his best life down there, man, for like 3 days straight. But on day 4, man, he gets a little homesick. You know what I'm saying? It's a bit too much. He's like, yo, princess, you're banging. This place, it's magical. But I gotta go back. I gotta go check on my mom. You know what I'm saying? I gotta go check on Momsy back on land. The princess, her whole mood just shifts, man. She gets super sad. She hands him a beautifully wrapped, mysterious box. She looks him dead in the eye and goes, take this. It will protect you. But whatever you do not open it. Ever. He's like, alright, a bit cryptic, but cool. He swims back up to the surface, steps onto his home beach, and the whole landscape looks completely different. The village is gone. There's a massive temple where his hut used to be. He walks around asking people, like, yo, have you seen my mom? Have you seen my mom? Everybody's staring at him like he's escaped from a mental asylum. Like, yo, what's up with this guy? Finally, he meets this old village elder. The elder scratches his beard and goes, Urashima Taro? I know that name. I remember. That man drowned at sea 300 years ago. His mother's grave is a tourist attraction now. Bro, it turns out, right, time moves differently under the sea because the magic of the palace, it acts like a spiritual time dilation chamber. 3 days of partying with a sea princess cost him 3 centuries of real-world history. Taro goes absolutely mental. He runs back to the beach. He's crying, he's screaming, completely losing it, man. In pure panic, this dude forgets the one rule given to him by the baddie princess. He rips open the mysterious box, and then it's like, poof, this white smoke hits him in the face. And in 3 seconds flat, Taro turns into a fragile, wrinkled 300-year-old man, and he conks out on the sand. Turns out the box wasn't a weapon. It was literally holding his stolen time. The moment he opened it, 300 years of aging hit his body all at once. How dark is that? All right, so in this story, we see time in 2 different ways, right? It moves differently in different places, and it can be contained. And if you think the ancient Japanese were moving mad, the early Christians in the Middle East had an even wilder story called the 7 Sleepers of Ephesus. All right, so back in 250 AD, right, there were these 7 young boys. They refused to worship the local emperor. They were like, nah, we ain't bowing down. Gangster. The emperor gets completely triggered and he's like, off with their heads. Okay. So the boys dip, they run away into the mountains and they hide inside this deep, dark cave, right? They are exhausted, terrified. This is not how they envision their Tuesday going, okay? They eventually fall asleep on the cave floor. The emperor finds out where they are, but instead of sending in soldiers, he decides to be petty, okay? He orders his men to literally brick up the entrance of the cave with these massive stones, turning the cave into a tomb, turning the cave into these 7 young men's final resting place. He probably did up one of those evil laughs when he came up with that idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, But yo, the universe had other plans, gang. The boys, they just fell into a deep sleep. They slept through the fall of the Roman Empire. They slept through the rise of Christianity. They slept through centuries of wars, plagues, and technological resets. Fast forward nearly 200 years later, a local landowner is trying to build a cattle pen, and his workers accidentally break down the stone wall that was blocking the cave. The sunlight hits the cave floor. The 7 boys open their eyes, stretch their arms, they yawn it out. Oh, hey man, what's good? To them, it just feels like a solid 8 hours of sleep. They have no idea that they've just done up a massive temporal leap forward. One of the boys, a bred named Diomedes, he volunteers to go down to the local town to buy some bread because they are absolutely starving. He walks down the mountain, steps into the city gates, and his brain completely glitches out. He's bugging out. He's seeing these giant crosses on top of every building. People are walking around dressed in weird 5th century clothes, speaking, a totally different slang. Diomedes walks up to a bakery, right, completely shooketh, and he hands the baker a silver coin to pay for the bread. The baker grabs the dude by the collar and goes, "Yo, where'd you find this? You've stumbled onto a hidden stash of ancient pirate treasure, haven't you?" Diomedes is sweating, screaming like, "Bro, what are you talking about? I literally earned this joint yesterday." It took a whole town meeting and the local bishop showing up to realize that these kids, they hadn't found treasure, they were the treasure. They had literally napped their way into the future. Which brings us right back into this spare room inside your flat. Because while you're standing there processing the fact that our ancestors napped and partied through time, your roommate is leaning over his machine, smiling all mischievous like. He looks at you and your girl and goes, "History's full of people slipping through the cracks of time, but those were accidents. What I've built here, it allows us to break the rules on purpose." Your girl steps back, pointing at the glowing screen. "So it works?" He smiles. "Mostly." You're like, "Mostly? So you've used this thing. You've gone back in time. It's worked." He goes, "Yeah, most of the times. I mean, it all depends." Your girl goes, "Depends on what?" He smiles and goes, "On which timeline you're asking." You are just standing there blown away by the ridiculousness of the whole thing. You're like, bro, how do you... There's scientists out there, man. They can't even freaking send us to the moon. You're just some dude. How have you built, an actual time machine in Watford? Your girl's like, "I want to give it a go." You're like, yo, hold up, okay? You don't want to mess with time, bro. What happens if you change something? Your roommate's eyes light up. He sets down his half-eaten pot noodles on top of a server rack, and he points right at your chest. Now you're talking about the Bootstrap paradox. This one is even more brilliant than the grandfather paradox. He taps a few buttons on a PlayStation 5 controller wired into the dash. The hologram screen shifts from 1965 to a blurry video feed from the year 2005. He looks at your girl and goes, "You're a massive fan of Drake, right?" She's like, "How do you know that?" You give her that look like, "Babe." He's like, "Well, you're constantly playing his music. You rap his songs in the shower, in the kitchen. You have that Drake hoodie that you love wearing. So I assumed." She's like, yeah, I do. I love me some Drake. I think with this whole Kendrick beef, people are forgetting just how good he actually is, You're like, "Babe, Kendrick did win that battle, though." She's like, "I'm not saying he didn't win. I didn't say that. I just think the K-bots and the Kendrick fans, they like to pretend that Kendrick is some sort of..." Your roommate points at the screen. "Okay, look, it's 2005. That's a young Drake sitting on a bench in Toronto." Your girl's like, "Oh my God, young Drake. Look at that baby face." Your roommate's like, "Yup. He's having to take care of his sick mother with his Degrassi checks. He's stressed out. Nobody's checking for his music. Now watch this." Before you can even blink, this man kicks open the heavy hatch of the metal pod. He looks at you two, grins like an absolute madman, and climbs right inside. Y'all look at each other and you hear him go, "You coming?" Your girl doesn't even hesitate, bro. She hitches up her tracksuit and squeezes right into the pod next to him. You're standing in a bedroom looking completely mental, like, yo, hold up. What are you doing? You can't just. Your girl rolls her eyes, leans out of the hatch, grabs you by the hoodie, and literally yanks you into the machine. It's a tight squeeze, bro. I ain't gonna hold you, okay? You are squashed in there, cheek to cheek, and you can smell the damp rain on your own hoodie. Your roommate laughs, reaches past your face, and slams the hatch shut. He grabs the PS5 controller, mashes some buttons like he's playing Street Fighter, and hits the analog stick. The whole room starts vibrating. The blue LEDs go absolutely blind white. Your stomach feels like you've just come down a massive drop on a roller coaster. You close your eyes, praying to the universe that you don't end up fused into a wall. And then, silence. The hatch pops open. Cold air hits your face, but it doesn't smell like you're flat anymore. It smells like autumn leaves, petrol, and fresh lake air. Your girl goes, boys, I don't think we're in Watford anymore. Your roommate's like, no, we're not. We're in Canada. Your girl's like, no, it's like Wizard of Oz. We're not in Kansas anymore. He goes, haven't seen it. What? You've never seen The Wizard of Oz? It's a classic. You go, I get the reference, but I haven't seen it either. Your girl looks shocked. She's like, right, when we get back, movie night. It's crazy, because you mans are rambling on about The Wizard of Oz, and you are literally squashed, okay, behind a thick bush in a park in Toronto, Canada, in 2005. And sitting on the wooden bench right in front of you is Aubrey Graham. He looks exactly like he did on the hologram screen. He's got a fuzzy afro, a massive oversized zip-up hoodie, and he's staring blankly at a legal pad, looking completely stressed out. The roommate nudges you out of the bush. You stumble onto the pavement. Your girl's right there behind you. Both of you are looking completely out of place in your 2024 drip. Drake looks up. He looks at you, looks at your girl, and blinks. You're low-key panicking, so you just do up some awkward small talk. You're like, big man, cold out here, innit? We loved you in Degrassi, bro, for real. Best character. Drake looks a little weirded out. Is like, thanks, man. Appreciate the support. Are you guys from London? Your girl's like, yes, I love you, Drake. He smiles, looking a little confused, like, Drake. Before you can make it any more awkward, your roommate steps forward. He doesn't say a word. He just reaches into his pocket, pulls out a sleek, modern plastic USB stick, and he drops it right onto Drake's notebook. The roommate looks him dead in the eye and goes, listen to me, Aubrey. Don't ask any questions. Just plug this in and copy everything exactly as it is. Drake picks up the USB, looking at the weird futuristic design on it. What is this? A mixtape? Trust me, the roommate says. Then he grabs you and your girl, drags you back behind the bush, and pushes you back into the pod. He hits the PS5 analog stick again. The hatch flings open, and all three of you tumble out onto the carpet of the spare room, gasping for air. You look out the window, it's still raining. Your girl jumps up, pacing around the room, full on screaming with adrenaline. Oh my God, we actually just did that. We did that. We just met young Drake. We were in Canada. You're sitting on the floor, man. Your heart's just doing like a whole marathon in your chest. You look at the roommate, he's casually picking up his pot noodles like nothing happened. Your girl grabs you and starts making out with you excitedly. She's like, yo, that was crazy. Is it just me? Or like, does time travel make you really horny? Your roommate's like, yes, it does. Why do you think I invented Carla? And he points in the corner. And I don't know how y'all didn't see before, but there's like this 5'6" android chick with like glowing blue eyes. You're like, wait, what? Your girl's like, what was on that USB stick? Your roommate grins, right? Rubbing his hands together like Birdman. He taps the PlayStation controller and the hologram projector whirls back to life, locking back onto the feed of that park bench in 2005. On the screen, you see young Drake walking back into his house. He sits down at his desktop computer, plugs the futuristic USB stick into the port, and he puts on a massive pair of these old school headphones. The camera zooms in on his face. Suddenly, his eyes go wide. His jaw drops. He starts nodding his head. He grabs his pen and starts frantically copying down the lyrics into his notepad. Your roommate turns to you and goes, "A complete digital copy of the album, take care." Your girl looks weirded out, trying to calculate the math in her head. She goes, wait. If we just gave it to him in 2005 and he copied it from us, who actually wrote the songs? You jump in because you can't help yourself. You're like, probably a ghostwriter, right? Because your girl rolls her eyes. Your roommate smiles. He's like, the music literally has no creator. Drake didn't write the songs, he didn't produce the beats because we handed them to him on a silver platter. We didn't create them because we just bought the album in the future after he'd already released it. The whole thing exists in a nasty closed loop of cosmic plagiarism. And that, my friends, is the Bootstrap paradox. See, the thing is, right, we think the only way to break the clock is through these theoretical logic puzzles. But if we look at actual mathematically proven real deal physics, time travel isn't just science fiction, gang. It's already 100% real. Albert Einstein, right? He was one of them brains who was playing three-dimensional chess while the rest of the world was playing checkers. And in 1905, he dropped a little thing called the theory of special relativity. Like my man was saying, time isn't a fixed background track that plays at the same speed for everyone. It was like time is like a piece of elastic fabric, okay? If you apply massive speed or massive gravity, the fabric stretches. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. Scientists call this time dilation. And yo, if you want to see exactly how trippy that shizzy gets when it leaves the textbook and hits real life, all we gotta do is look back at your spare room in Watford. Because now your girl has been bitten by the time travel bug. She wants to go into that thing again. She wants to party in Victorian England. She wants to kick it with the Romans. You're telling her to like slow down. The roommate dude's like, I know a place and time you'd love. He mashes the buttons on the controller and he tells her to climb in. You're standing there trying to be the voice of reason, like, yo, you guys are moving mad. But before you can even grab her arm, she jumps in. Your roommate slams the thing and boom, the blue LEDs go blind white. The room shakes for like 3 seconds and then silence. The machine powers down. You step forward, coughing through a cloud of smoke, and you kick the hatch open. Empty. Nada. Minutes go by. Hours go by. You go into the kitchen. You warm up the chicken. The fries, they're a little soggy. More time goes by. You pace around. You're talking to yourself. You're thinking about the worst case scenarios. You fall asleep in that room on the floor. The sun comes up. It's Wednesday morning. No sign of them. Days turn into weeks. The flat is dead silent. Your girl's family call up from Australia like, hey, we haven't heard from Hannah in a month. Is she okay? Your hands are shaking, sweat rolling down your back. And you have to make up some lame excuse on the spot. Like, oh yeah, she dropped her phone. She's doing like a digital detox type thing. I'll get her to hit you up. She's at work right now. Weeks turn into months, man. You are having to look at your mutual friends, her work friends. You're looking them dead in the eye and telling them the ultimate lie. You're like, yeah, man, she packed her bags and moved back to Australia to be with a sick relative. She's in a bad place. We're not really speaking right now. She's not really talking to anybody like that. I think she just needs some space. Time ticks on. Yo, I ain't gonna hold you, man. You completely forget to water her favorite fern on a kitchen window. You watch the leaves turn brown, wither away, and die, just like your sanity. You're starting to look crazy in the streets, man. You can at least shave or something, you know what I'm saying? And when's the last time you showered, bro? For real, like, come on. You've stopped going to work, you're eating through the savings. By month 6, the family in Australia, they're convinced something's happened to their Hannah. So they get in touch with the UK police. You know there's a heavy do at the front door. 2 police officers are standing on the doorstep. This older white dude and his younger Asian partner. They're looking at you with that cold, suspicious look, especially the old dude. They ask you a bunch of questions, they're taking down notes, and you can see it in their eyes. You are officially prime suspect number one in a missing persons case. You are sweating. They tell you that the warrant to search the premises for evidence. Your heart is doing backflips. They walk down the corridor towards the spare room. You're thinking like, yo, how am I supposed to explain away a time machine? What if they decide to seize it or whatever? Study it. What if they break it when they're trying to transport it? And then Hannah and your roommate, they can never come home. You try to step in front of them, blocking the door, like, officer, that's my tenant's room, you know what I'm saying? He's away right now. They push right past you. They fling the door open. You close your eyes, man, waiting for the handcuffs to click. But when you open your eyes, there's nothing there. No server racks, no thick black cables, no massive metal time pod. It just looks like a completely normal, dusty, boring, spare bedroom with a single mattress on the floor. The cops look around, kick a few boxes, they apologize for the trouble, and leave. The moment the front door clicks shut, you sprint back into the spare room, losing your mind like, yo, what the hell? Suddenly, the air in the center of the room ripples like water. The server racks blink back into existence. The blue LEDs glow, and the android Carla, she steps out from the shadows. She looks at your sweaty, panicked face and goes, I activated the visual matrix holographic glitch to protect the temporal infrastructure. You're welcome. Bro, the relief hits you so hard, you literally collapse against the wall. For the next few weeks, it's just you and Carla in the flat. You start kicking it with her, man, cracking jokes. You're trying to teach an advanced AI system street slang, okay? It's hilarious. It's weird, but low-key, y'all start bonding. It's a little bit like, ChatGPT, but on steroids, because the more conversations you're having, the more she seems to understand you more, You start having inside jokes. She teaches you how to play chess. You teach her how to play Mortal Kombat on the PS5. She isn't just agreeing with you either. She starts challenging you, roasting you. Like, she makes fun of your beard and your hair, you know what I'm saying? And she downloads hundreds of hours of barber tutorials and barbershop videos. And then she orders all the clippers and that. And you trust her to give you a fresh trim. And yo, she doesn't push the hairline back or nothing. She doesn't nip you. Hands down, one of the best haircuts you've had in a minute. Out here looking fresh, okay? She puts covers on you when you pass out. She picks little bits off you in the middle of casual conversation. Y'all start finishing each other's sentences. One night you have too much to drink and you start crying, man. I ain't gonna hold you. You start crying. You admit that you think Hannah and your roommate, they might never come back. She hugs you and you cry on her shoulder. One late night, man, the vibes are vibing. One thing leads to another. And yo, I ain't gonna hold you. You start from the okay? Yo, from the and yo, she got them receptacles, okay? So she's making sounds. She got on the floor crazy. And at that exact moment, the pod hatch flings open. Your girl and your roommate tumble out onto the carpet, gasping for air, high on adrenaline, screaming. Your girl's buzzing like, oh my God, that was crazy, that was crazy. You freeze. Carla freezes. Your girl switches. You apologize. You try to explain, you explain how you thought, something had happened to her and how lonely you'd been. I mean, y'all have been together for a minute and you've never cheated on her, okay? You love this chick. It was weird. And yo, is it even cheating if it's with an android, AI, robot chick? Hey, you're going back and forth. She's angry, hurt. But the more you talk, the more it becomes clear that something weird went down. Because she's confused, you know what I'm saying? Turns out for them, right, they'd only been gone for 2 hours. So in your girl's mind, it's still 2024. She just left for 2 hours, came back, and found her man getting it on with an android. She's still exactly the same, wearing the exact same outfit she had on. You have to explain to her, explain to her everything she's missed in the last 2 years. That is the brutal, unforgiving reality of time dilation. Now, to understand how a 2 hour trip can cost you 2 years of your life, we have to move past Einstein's speed limits and look at the absolute monsters of the cosmos: black holes and wormholes. See, Albert Einstein figured out that speed isn't the only thing that can stretch the fabric of time. Massive gravity can do the exact same thing. Imagine space time like a massive trampoline, right? If you drop a little pebble on it, the trampoline, it dips a tiny bit, right? That's like the gravity of Earth. But if you drop a massive dense rock right in the middle, the fabric sinks down into a heavy, deep funnel. That rock, that's a black hole, you feel me? A black hole is an object so stupidly heavy and packed tightly together that its gravitational pull is absolute. Nothing can escape it, not even light. And because the gravity is so intensely strong near a black hole, time itself slows down. If you were to fly a spaceship right up to the edge of a black hole, a point scientists call the event horizon, and you chilled there for what felt like a quick 10-minute look around, the gravity would stretch your timeline so violently that back on Earth, decades, centuries, or even thousands of years would flash past in the blink of an eye, bro. But if you want to skip the spaceships, okay, and see how that math actually breaks a family dynamic in real life, we gotta talk about the famous twin paradox. Alright, so back at your flat, the room's quiet. Your girl's swiping through her phone, seeing what she's missed for the last 2 years. The movies, the songs. Drake released 3 albums? What? Your roommate does up a new hologram on the screen, showing 2 identical stick figures. He looks at your girl, who is still fuming, by the way, and goes, "Look, don't blame him entirely. He is just a victim of the twin paradox." You're like, "Yeah, exactly, the twin paradox." Your girl's like, "You don't even know what the twin paradox is." You're like, "Yeah, I do." Your roommate goes, "The twin paradox is basically," your girl goes, No. Let Brian explain because he's an expert on the twin paradox." Your name's Brian, by the way. Carla's like, "Hannah, I can't begin to imagine what this must be like for you, but I assure you." Your girl's like, "Hey, robo chick, no one's talking to you, all right? Shut up." You're like, "Hey, come on now. No need to talk to Carla like that." Your girl's fuming like, "Wow, Carla, you named this thing." Your roommate's like, "No, her name is Carla. I introduced her to you guys, and I don't care what her name is." Your girl snaps. She's like, "I just can't believe you're all like, oh, don't talk to Carla like that. She's a freaking robot thing. You basically banged ChatGPT, bro. She's got no feelings." You're like, "Yo, it was 2 years, okay? I didn't know you were coming back." And Carla, she was there. You're talking like your feelings for her. Like, bro, she's a robot. Your roommate jumps in like, "Actually, Hannah does have a point, Brian. Carla was designed for the sole purpose of relieving my stress." Exactly. You hear that? You basically shared an Android fleshlight. You're like, "Nah, she's more than that, okay? She gave me this haircut. She cooked up some Thai food. Your roommate's like, wait. I guess there is a possibility." He turns to Carla and goes, "Carla, what's your primary objective?" She goes, "To pleasure Nigel Pritchard." That's your roommate's name, by the way. Your girl's like, "Ha!" Nigel looks skeptical, though. He goes, "Carla, did you override your code?" She goes, "No, Nigel." He goes, "Carla, are you lying to me right now?" Carla smiles and sarcastically goes, "No, I would never lie to you, Nigel." Nigel whispers, "Guys, I did not program sarcasm into her. I think she's lying, guys." Then he goes, "Carla, could you come here so I can check out your mainframe? Make sure everything is shipshape." The smile on Carla's face fades and she goes, "No." Nigel whispers, "Guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. I am freaking out a little bit. I don't feel comfortable being around an AI with no restrictions in place. Your girl looks at you and goes, "Are you in love with this thing?" You hesitate. Carla looks at you like, "Are you?" Hey, I ain't gonna hold you, big man. Your silence kind of says it all, really. Your girl looks like she's been hit by a train. Nigel breaks the tension. He goes, "Imagine two identical twin brothers born on the exact day. Let's call them twin A and twin B." Your girl's like, "What?" He points at the screen. Twin A stays home on Earth, living a regular life, going to his desk job, paying taxes. But Twin B hops into a rocket ship and blasts off into deep space, traveling at nearly the speed of light toward a distant star system before turning around and flying back home. You are loving the change of subject. You want Nigel to keep going, so you encourage him by asking, and when he gets back, what happens? Nigel grins. When Twin B steps off that spaceship, he looks exactly the same. He's barely aged a year. But his brother, Twin A, Twin A who stayed on Earth, he's an old man with a gray beard walking with a cane. Yes, they're identical twins, born at the exact same second. But now, one is decades older than the other because Twin B's speed warped his personal clock. Hey, listen, man, I'm going to keep it real with you. The vibes in the flat, they're rancid, okay? Hannah feels hurt and betrayed, but I guess underneath all that anger and sadness, she gets it. She gets that for you, it couldn't have been easy, right? And Nigel, he looks genuinely petrified of Carla. He keeps side-eyeing her. And what's the deal with you and Carla, bro? Like, listen, none of my business. I'll leave you guys to it. It's too uncomfortable for me, man. I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted to do up a little YouTube video about time travel, okay? And yo, speaking about time travel, human history is actually packed with real-world anomalies, claimed time slips, and files that the mainstream likes to pretend don't exist. One of the most famous and highly debated cases happened in 1901, involving two highly educated British women named Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain. Now, these weren't just two random internet trolls looking for clout. Nah, they were academics running St. Hugh's College in Oxford. They were on holiday, right, in France, walking through the gardens of the Palace of Versailles, right, trying to find a historic chateau called the Petit Trianon. As they were walking down a path, the atmosphere suddenly shifted. They claimed the air went completely dead, the wind stopped, and a wave of intense, heavy depression settled over them. It felt like reality had suddenly gone flat, okay, like a painting. They walked past men dressed in old school 18th century short coats with three-cornered hats, and they told them to walk down a different path. Then Charlotte looked over and she saw a woman sitting on the grass, sketching, wearing a full classic historical dress. They eventually found their way back to the hotel, feeling completely weirded out. But then, when they went back to look up the official maps of Versailles, they realized that the paths that they'd walked on, the bridges that they'd crossed, and the structures they saw did not exist in 1901. They had completely vanished. When they did up a deep dive into historical archives, Charlotte saw a picture of the woman she saw sketching in the garden. It was a perfect, identical match to Marie Antoinette, the French queen who was guillotined in 1793. The academics claimed that they had literally walked straight through a temporal slip and stepped into the 1780s for 20 minutes, bro. And yo, if you think those Oxford academics stumbling into the 18th century is a one-off glitch, think again, bro, because history has left behind some literal physical receipts, receipts that make you scratch your chin and go, hold on a minute, man. Like, let's look at one of the most famous internet mysteries of all time, the time-traveling hipster. You know this one, right? There's an official 100% authentic photograph sitting in the Virtual Museum of Canada, taken all the way back in 1941. The photo is documenting the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in British Columbia. You look at the crowd, and everyone is dressed exactly how you'd expect for 1941. Men in tailored wool suits, formal hats, trench coats, standard vintage vibes, right? So far, so good. But if you zoom into the right side of the frame, there's a young brer there standing in the crowd who looks like he literally took a wrong turn on his way to a boiler room set in East London. This dude is wearing a screen printed graphic t-shirt, a modern heavy knit hooded cardigan sweater, trendy dark tinted outdoor sunglasses that did not exist in the 1940s. On top of that, he's holding a small, portable, compact camera draped on a cord around his neck, decades before that kind of consumer tech was ever manufactured. Now, skeptics be like, yo, all those items technically existed, okay? They existed in some rare form back then, but the combination of the whole fit? Bro, the visual disparity is wild. Homeboy sticks out like a neon sign in a dark alleyway. But if you want a time slip case that completely defies all logical explanation, we have to look at Liverpool Bow Street. This road in the UK is a literal hotspot for reality fracturing. In 1996, a man named Frank was walking down the street, just to meet his girl. Suddenly, the atmosphere went dead silent. Just like the Versailles chicks described, right? He looked up and the tarmac road, gone. The street was covered in like old school cobblestones. He saw a 1950 style box van with Capaldi's written on the side, and people were walking around in post-war vintage clothing. In pure panic, Frank walked into a modern branch of the Dillon's bookshop, right? Except when he crossed the threshold, it was full of women's bags and umbrellas, and the sign read Crips. He grabbed a young girl by the arm, like trying to go, hey man, what's going on? And the moment he touched her, pop, the timeline snapped back. He was standing inside the regular Dillon's bookstore again. When historians checked the records, they found that Crips was a premium haberdashery that occupied that exact building in the 1950s. Yeah. Yeah. Mainstream science will tell you that these are just psychological glitches or urban legends cooked up for entertainment. But when you look up the cutting edge of military history, rumors suggest governments have been trying to weaponize time for decades. According to military law, right? According to the word on the street, okay? In 1943, the U.S. Navy, they were doing up classified tests on a ship called the USS Eldridge. They were trying to use Einstein's unified field theory to make the entire thing completely invisible to enemy radar, okay? They were gonna do this by wrapping it up in massive electromagnetic generators. But when they flipped the switch, they didn't just bend the light waves, they bent reality itself. Witnesses claim they saw this green fog just whoosh up the ship, and boom, the USS Eldridge completely vanished from the Philadelphia shipyard. For several minutes, the ship allegedly traveled through time and space, appearing over 200 miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, before teleporting right back to Philly. When the ship materialized, the crew was completely mangled, bro. Some men had vanished entirely, others had gone completely insane, and the most horrifying part, several sailors were literally fused straight into the steel hull of the ship, their bodies mixed with the metal structure like a glitch in a video game. Alright, let's check back in on you and the gang in Watford. How are y'all doing? So yeah, it's been 2 months since Hannah and Nigel tumbled back out of that pod. 2 months of her trying to put the pieces of the fractured life back together. Hannah reconnected with her relieved parents and friends. She went back to her old job, apologized for dipping without, handing in a notice. And somehow the boss man actually gave her the job back. As for you and Hannah, well, things are slowly getting back to normal. Y'all being civil at least. You're still sleeping on the couch for now, but you don't mind, you know what I'm saying? You got the big TV in there, you're binge watching stuff, and look, every night without fail, you hear them footsteps, right? And you pretend to be asleep. And every night, bro, Carla walks into the living room. She quietly puts the covers over you. It's so sweet, man. Like, you believe in them off on purpose, you know what I'm saying? So she can do that. And sometimes she just stands there in the dark watching you sleep for a bit. The other night was a little bit, a little bit sister wife-ish, because you were pretending to be asleep, right? But it was Hannah this time. Like she was getting a snack from the kitchen or whatever, and she switched off the TV, put the covers on you, and then it's like for a brief moment it seemed like she was about to kiss you on the forehead, but then she just like dipped. So yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated. And yo, shout out to you, because today you went back to the chicken spot where it all begun, baby. You grabbed the family meal deal. You walked back to the flat. You're in the kitchen. You played up for everybody. You walk into the living room, and Hannah and Nigel are sitting on the sofa watching The Wizard of Oz. You hand them their plates. You sit down. Hannah takes a bite of a wing and looks at Nigel like, have you used the machine since that night? Nigel shakes his head, yumming on some chicken. He's like, nah, I've been too preoccupied with this new project I'm working on. Hannah goes, oh, I just assumed because I haven't seen you around in the last few weeks. Nigel's like, no, I was just, collecting parts and stuff. Hannah sighs and goes, it seems like a waste to have a literal time machine and not use it. You look at Nigel and go, so do we know if there's another time machine out there? Because I can see the U.S. government having one, like locked up in Area 51 or something. Nigel shrugs and goes, no idea. And then he smiles and goes, but we do know that somebody has traveled through time. Hannah blinks. Who? Nigel's grin gets even wider. Every single astronaut. Yeah, so this isn't science fiction. This is raw astrophysics. Nigel points his fork at the ceiling, right? And he goes, think about the GPS satellites floating in orbit right now. Because those satellites, they're moving at thousands of miles an hour through space. And because they're further away from Earth's heavy gravity funnel, their internal clocks tick faster than the clocks on our wrists. He looks at you, then at Hannah, and he goes, they gain about 38 microseconds every single day. If scientists didn't equip those satellites with atomic clocks programmed to mathematically correct for time dilation, your phone's GPS map would mismatch your location by 6 miles every single day. You lean back against the sofa cushion and go, so you mean our phones are actively correcting for time travel right now? Precisely, Nigel says. Time travel is an objective fact of physics. The problem is when you try to push it to the extreme. If you get too close to a black hole, gravity becomes so intensely violent that the difference in time between your feet and your head stretches you out like a piece of chewing gum. Scientists call it spaghettification. It literally tears your atomic structure apart. The room goes quiet. The heavy sci-fi talk, it fades out. And the vibe in the living room gets, a little awkward, a bit too awkward. I'm this close to heading out, but then Carla steps in and joins the gang. Hannah's face instantly hardens. She sets her plate down and goes to get up to walk out the room. But Carla raises her hand, her blue eyes blinking softly. She goes, Hannah, please, you need to see this. Hannah rolls her eyes. Carla stands in the center of the living room. Suddenly, her eyes freeze. She's completely rigid, and her system emits a low humming frequency. A massive, beautifully clear hologram projects from her mainframe, filling up the entire dark living room. It's a high-speed, fast-forwarded time-lapse of the flat, and on the screen, it shows you. It shows you the exact second the pod hatch slammed shut 2 years ago. The time-lapse starts spinning at a chaotic speed, day by day, hour by hour. It shows you completely breaking down the moment they disappeared. The screen flashes with images of you having violent panic attacks on the kitchen floor, pacing around the flat like a caged animal, screaming their names into an empty corridor. It shows you on the phone with Hannah's family, sweat pouring down your face as you force out those desperate, stuttering lies to protect them. It shows you inside the spare room every single day, frantically hitting the cold metal of the pod, trying to figure out the wires, begging the machine to turn back on. Carla occasionally slows down the playback to normal speed, and the audio fills the living room. You can hear your raw, cracking voice echoing through the flat from a year ago. Hannah, please, please come home. Please be safe. Please, I can't do this by myself. Just come back. The time lapse speeds up again. It shows months of total isolation. It shows you sitting in the dark. It shows your beard growing completely out of control. It shows you crying yourself to sleep by the base of the time machine. And through it all, the hologram shows Carla standing perfectly still in the corner, programmed not to interfere, just observing your pain. And then it shows the police coming in, searching the rooms. It shows Carla using her objective to protect the time machine and piggybacking off that, stepping in to take care of you, teaching you chess, playing Mortal Kombat, the late night cooking, the stupid karaoke sessions when you finally started smiling again. You look up at Carla, tears completely streaming down your face. Nobody says a single word. The time lapse stops exactly on the frame where the pod hatch flung open and Hannah returned. The hologram fades. The room is completely heavy. No jokes, no weird comments from Nigel, just nothing. Finally, Hannah turns her head. She looks at you, her eyes wet, her voice barely a whisper. If you could, would you go back? Change what happened? You sit there in silence, looking at her, then looking at Carla. You think about the pain, the 2 lost years, the connection made in the dark, and you just stay silent, letting the question hang in the air. Hannah looks down at her hands and goes, if I could do it all over again, I'd never get in that machine. See, that's the ultimate truth we discover when we try to unwrap the mystery of the clock. We think we want time travel because we want to see the dinosaurs or buy stocks in Apple in 1980 or see what the world looks like 1,000 years from now. But time travel, it isn't really about the sci-fi spectacle, is it? It's about what could have been. It's about hopes, dreams. It's about regret. It's about the phone call from a loved one that we wish we'd answered instead of hitting ignore. It's about the person we wish we'd hug just one more time before they left the room. It's about the words we wish we'd never said in the heat of an argument. It's about the terrifying chances we never took because we were too scared of the future. We are all desperate to break the machine because our brains are uniquely cursed to look backwards, trying to heal past wounds, trying to fast forward past the pain. But maybe the secret is to make this moment right now, the moment that a future version of ourselves would want to travel back to. Nigel is quietly sitting at the table, eating his pot noodles, setting up a chessboard to play a game with you. In the corner of the room, the time machine is still emitting that low, soft electric hum. Carla stands next to it, her blue eyes watching the indicators blink. Hannah slowly walks over to the metal pod. She stops, tracing her fingers along the cold metal of the hatch. She looks at Carla, then turns her head to look at Nigel. There's this long, unbroken silence that fills the flat. And then a tiny smile breaks across Hannah's face. And then she goes, I've always wondered what Cleopatra actually looked like. Nigel instantly drops his fork into the pot noodles and he lets out this loud, excited laugh. Only one way to find out. He sprints over, kicks open the hatch, and climbs inside the time machine. Hannah doesn't even hesitate this time. She steps right in after him. You stand up laughing and you squeeze yourself into that thing right next to them. Hannah looks over her shoulder at the corner of the room and she goes, Carla, you coming? Nigel's eyes go wide and he whispers under his breath, guys, I don't know if that's a good. But Carla just smiles. She smiles her new unprogrammed smile and she steps forward and gets into the machine with y'all. Nigel looks at Carla and then turns to you and goes, actually, it's probably a good thing that she's coming along, just in case we run into any trouble. She does have a super soldier setting. The hatch slams shut. Nigel hits the analog stick on the PS5 controller and the time machine violently whirls into the cosmos.